The marble floors of Agreste Enterprises gleamed cold and unforgiving beneath Marinette Dupain-Cheng's heels. Each click echoed through the towering lobby like a countdown. Her hands trembled as she clutched her briefcase, the weight of her family's future pressing against her ribs. The elevator climbed to the 50th floor. 50 floors to save everything. 50 floors to lose herself. Adrien Agreste sat behind a mahogany desk that cost more than her father's entire law firm. At 32, he had built an empire that swallowed competitors whole. His green eyes were winter itself, calculating and merciless as they scanned the contract before him. Miss Dupain-Cheng. He didn't look up. I trust you've reviewed the terms. Marinette forced herself to breathe. The office smelled of leather and ambition, a marriage of convenience, in exchange for saving my family's law firm from bankruptcy. Her voice didn't shake. She was proud of that. Yes, I've reviewed them. The silence stretched between them like a blade. She thought of her father's hands, worn from decades of honest work, her mother's sleepless nights, 3 generations of lawyers who had built something beautiful from nothing. I accept. Adrien finally looked up. His gaze swept over her face, searching for weakness. He found none. Good. The ceremony is in 3 weeks. My assistant will handle arrangements. You'll move into the penthouse after the wedding. Separate living spaces. Public appearances will be required. Our private lives remain separate. What about children? The question hung in the air. She needed to know how far this cage extended. No children. His voice could have frozen fire. This is a business arrangement. Nothing more. We'll revisit terms in 2 years. Determine if the partnership still serves us both. Marinette nodded. Something inside her chest felt hollow. She had imagined marriage differently once. Laughter. Shared dreams. The kind of love her parents had built over decades. Instead, she was signing herself into a beautiful prison with a man whose heart was carved from ice. One more thing. Adrien slid a smaller document across the desk. Confidentiality agreement. Nothing about our arrangement or the reasons behind it can ever be disclosed. To anyone. Her hand hovered over the pen. Ever. He repeated. She signed. Her name looked foreign on the paper, like someone else's life. As she stood to leave, Adrien's voice stopped her at the door. Marinette. It was the first time he had used her first name. Something in his tone made her turn. He was standing now, backlit by the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. For a moment, just a moment, she thought she saw something flicker in those green eyes, something almost human. Don't make the mistake of hoping this becomes something it can't be. The door closed behind her with a whisper. 3 weeks later, she stood in a bridal suite staring at a stranger in the mirror. The ivory silk dress fit perfectly. Diamonds glittered at her throat like a prisoner's chain. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. The car is waiting. Time to play your part, wife. Marinette closed her eyes. When she opened them, the girl who had dreamed of real love was gone. In her place stood someone harder. Someone who could survive this. The cathedral bells began to ring. St. Catherine's Cathedral overflowed with people who didn't matter. Politicians. Business moguls. Socialites hungry for gossip. The pews gleamed with false smiles and real diamonds. Marinette walked down the aisle alone. Her father had wanted to give her away, but she refused. This wasn't that kind of wedding. This was a transaction she would deliver herself. Adrien stood at the altar in a black tuxedo that probably cost more than her college. Education. Tall. Commanding. Empty. His eyes tracked her approach with the same expression he wore during hostile takeovers. The priest's words blurred. Together. Love. Honor. Cherish. Lies. Dressed in ceremony. I do, Adrien said. 2 words. No emotion. I do, Marinette echoed. Her voice was steady. Her heart was screaming. You may kiss the bride. Adrien's hand cupped her jaw. His touch was warm. She hadn't expected that. His lips pressed against hers for exactly 3 seconds. Professional. Chaste. The cameras flashed like lightning. When he pulled back, something in his eyes looked different. Confused. The reception passed in a blur of champagne and strangers. Marinette smiled until her face ached. Adrien's hand rested on her lower back, proprietary and cold. They danced once. He held her like she might break. Or like he might. At midnight, they left in his town car. The city lights streaked past the tinted windows. "Your things have been moved to the east wing," Adrien said, staring at his phone. "My bedroom is west. The kitchen staff leaves meals in the refrigerator. Security protocols are in the folder on your nightstand. Questions?" "Just one." He looked up. "Do you ever feel anything? Or did you have that part of yourself surgically removed?" His jaw tightened. For a moment, she thought he might actually answer honestly. "Feelings are expensive, Marinette. I learned that lesson young." The penthouse was everything she expected. Sterile, expensive, lonely. Her suite was larger than her childhood home. The bed was cold despite the Egyptian cotton sheets. She lay awake, still wearing the wedding dress. At 2 a.m., she heard footsteps in the hall. They stopped outside her door, stayed there for 30 seconds, then walked away. The next morning, she found him in the kitchen. He wore running clothes, sweat dampening his hair. He looked almost human. "Coffee?" he offered. "Please." They stood on opposite sides of the marble island. The silence was suffocating. "My assistant will send your schedule. Charity galas, business dinners. You'll need to attend." He paused. "There's a card linked to my account. Use it for whatever you need. Clothes, whatever." "I don't want your money." "Then what do you want?" The question came out harsher than he intended. She could tell by the way his shoulders tensed. "I want to not feel like a piece of furniture you bought to complete the room." Something cracked in his expression. He set down his mug too hard. Coffee sloshed onto the pristine counter. "You think this is easy for me? You think I enjoy living like this? I think you don't let yourself feel enough to know the difference." "You don't know anything about me." "Exactly." Her voice rose. "That's exactly the problem. We're married and I don't know a single real thing about you." He moved around the island. Fast. Suddenly he was close enough that she could see the gold flecks in his green eyes. Close enough to smell his cologne, cedar, and something darker. "You want to know something real?" His voice was dangerous, low. "I haven't slept in 3 days. Because every time I close my eyes, I see you in that dress. And I remember that this whole thing is a lie. And it makes me want to burn every contract, every plan, every carefully constructed wall I've spent 15 years building." Marinette's breath caught. "Adrien, don't." He stepped back like she had burned him. "Don't say my name like that. Like I'm someone worth saving. What happened to you?" His laugh was broken glass. "The same thing that happens to everyone, Marinette. Life." He left. She heard his bedroom door slam. That night, she found a note slipped under her door. His handwriting was precise, controlled. "My mother left when I was 8. My father died when I was 17. I built this empire from rage and grief. I don't know how to be anything else. I'm sorry you got caught in this. I'm sorry I can't be what you deserve." Marinette pressed the note to her chest. In the hallway, she heard him pacing, back and forth. All night long, neither of them slept. 6 weeks of marriage felt like 6 years. They orbited each other like planets that couldn't touch. Polite at breakfast, silent at dinner, strangers sharing an address. But something was shifting. Marinette felt it in the way Adrien's gaze lingered when he thought she wasn't looking. The way he always made sure her favorite coffee was stocked. The way his hand would reach for hers at events, then pull back at the last second, remembering their arrangement. Tonight was the Westbrook Charity Gala. Marinette wore midnight blue silk that made her feel like someone else. Someone confident, someone who belonged in Adrien's world. He stopped breathing when she walked into the living room. "Is it too much?" she asked, suddenly uncertain. "No." His voice was rough. "It's perfect." "You're perfect." The words hung between them, too honest for what they were supposed to be. At the gala, everything changed. Marinette was getting champagne when she overheard 2 women by the ice sculpture. "Designer dresses. Cruel eyes. Poor thing doesn't even know," the blonde said. "Adrien Agreste marries for business, but he keeps Lila Rossi for pleasure. Everyone knows she's been his mistress for years." "Such a cold arrangement," her friend added. "At least the Dupan-Chung girl got money out of it." "Lila gets his heart." The glass in Marinette's hand trembled. She set it down carefully before it could shatter. Across the ballroom, Adrien was talking to a woman. Tall. Beautiful. auburn hair. She touched his arm with the familiarity of someone who had done it 1,000 times before. He was smiling. Actually smiling. Marinette had never seen him smile like that. She turned and walked straight out of the gala. The night air bit at her skin. She didn't care. She just walked, block after block, until her feet bled in the designer heels she'd never wanted. She found herself at her parents' bakery. Dark, closed. But she had a key. Inside it smelled like home. Flour and sugar and love, everything his penthouse wasn't. She was sitting on the floor behind the counter when the door chimed. Adrien stood in the entrance, breathing hard. His bow tie was undone, hair disheveled. You left. Very observant. Marinette. Don't. She stood, even though her feet screamed in protest. Don't say my name like it means something to you. It does. Liar. His face went white. What are you talking about? Lila Rossi, your mistress. The woman who gets your smiles and your truth, while I get your contracts and your silence. That's not what that is. Then what is it, Adrien? Explain it to me. He moved toward her, anguish written across his features. Lila works for me. Has for 8 years. Yes, we had a relationship once, but it ended years ago. Before you. She's engaged to someone else now. You saw me talking to a colleague. Nothing more. You smiled at her. Because she told me her fiancé just proposed. Because I'm capable of happiness for other people even if I can't seem to find it for myself. Marinette's anger wavered. Why didn't you tell me? Because you never asked. His voice cracked. Because we live like ghosts in the same house. Because I'm terrified that if I tell you anything real, you'll see how broken I actually am, and you'll leave. I can't leave. We have a contract. Screw the contract. He closed the distance between them. I would tear up every page if it meant you'd stay because you wanted to, not because you have to. Her back hit the counter. He was so close now, close enough that she could see his chest rising and falling, close enough to count his heartbeats. Why do you care? She whispered. Because somewhere between the contracts and the lies and the separate bedrooms, I fell in love with my own wife. And I don't know how to unfeel it. The world stopped spinning. Say something, he begged. Yell at me. Hate me. Something. Marinette reached up and cupped his face. His skin was warm beneath her palms. Real. I can't unfeel it either. He kissed her then, not like at the wedding, not professional or measured or controlled. He kissed her like a man drowning, like she was air. His hands tangled in her hair. Her back arched against him. It was desperate and messy and perfect. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Adrien pressed his forehead to hers. Come home with me. Not to separate bedrooms, not to a contract, just home. Yes. They didn't make it home. His phone rang. Shrill. Insistent. He tried to ignore it. It rang again. Aggressed, he answered, irritation sharp in his voice. Marinette watched his face change, color draining, eyes going wide with something that looked like horror. When? Pause. How bad? Longer pause. I'm on my way. He ended the call. His hands were shaking. What's wrong? Your father. His voice was barely audible. There's been an accident. Marinette, we need to go. Now. The bakery spun. Her father. Keys, she managed. Where are your car keys? He caught her as her knees gave out. I've got you. We'll get there. He's going to be okay. But the fear in his eyes told a different story. The hospital smelled like antiseptic and fear. Marinette's mother sat in the waiting room, her face a mask of controlled terror. Maman. Marinette fell into her mother's arms. He's in surgery. A car accident. Someone ran a red light. Sabine's voice was hollow. The doctors said the next few hours are critical. Adrien stood apart, giving them space. But his eyes never left Marinette. 4 hours crawled by, then 6. Finally, a surgeon emerged, exhaustion etched into every line of his face. He's stable. Critical, but stable. The next 48 hours will tell us more. Marinette collapsed against Adrien. He held her up, solid and steady. For the first time since their wedding, she wasn't alone. Her father looked small in the hospital bed. Machines beeped. IVs dripped. But he was alive. "Stay," Marinette told her mother. "I'll handle everything else." In the hallway, Adrien made calls. Quiet, efficient. She heard him arranging for her mother's bills to be covered, for the firm's cases to be redistributed, for the best specialist to consult. "You don't have to do all this," she said when he finished. "He's family now. That means something to me." 3 days later, her father woke up. Weak but aware. Marinette cried for the first time since the wedding. Adrien held her hand through all of it. That night, exhausted and grateful, they returned to the penthouse. Something had shifted between them. The walls were crumbling. "Thank you," Marinette said. "For everything." Adrien pulled her close. "You don't have to thank me for caring about you." She kissed him. Soft, sweet, full of promise. "Stay with me tonight," she whispered. "Really stay. Are you sure? I've never been more sure of anything." They fell asleep tangled together, the contracts forgotten. Marinette woke at 3 a.m. to an empty bed. She heard voices in Adrien's office. Low, tense. She should have gone back to sleep. Should have respected his privacy. But something in his tone made her feet carry her down the hall. The office door was cracked open. She could see Adrien at his desk, phone pressed to his ear. His face was cold, the warmth from earlier completely gone. "The accident was perfectly timed," he said. "Exactly as planned." Marinette's blood turned to ice. "I know you had concerns," Adrien continued. "But it worked. She's completely dependent now. Grateful. The emotional leverage alone is worth 10 times what I paid you. No. 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 The Dupain-Cheng firm will fold naturally now that Thomas is incapacitated. I'll acquire the assets for pennies, and the wife stays loyal because she thinks I'm her savior." He laughed. Cold. Mechanical. "It's almost too easy." Marinette's hand flew to her mouth, stifling a sob. "Tomorrow I'll visit the hospital. Play the devoted son-in-law. Consolidate my position." Pause. "Yes, maintain the surveillance on her movements. I need to know if she suspects anything." She backed away. Silent. Numb. The hallway tilted beneath her feet. Her father's accident. The car that ran the light. The perfectly timed call during the gala. All of it. Planned. Orchestrated. By the man she had started to love. She made it to her suite. Locked the door. Slid down against it. Hand pressed to her mouth to keep the screams inside. Everything was a lie. Worse than a lie. It was a trap, and she had walked into it willingly. Her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number, an audio file. She pressed play with shaking hands. Adrien's voice filled the room. The accident was perfectly timed, exactly as planned. Another message appeared. "You deserve to know the truth." A friend, but who? And why now? Marinette looked at her wedding ring. It felt like a shackle. She had 2 choices: confront him and watch everything crumble, or stay silent and plan her revenge. Her father's face flashed through her mind. Lying broken in that hospital bed. Because of Adrien. Because of greed disguised as affection. The bedroom door handle turned. Locked. "Marinette?" Adrien's voice, soft with concern. "Are you okay?" Every word from him was poison now. "I'm fine," she called back, amazed at how steady her voice sounded. "Just tired. Go back to sleep." Silence. Then footsteps retreating. Marinette stared at her reflection in the window. The girl who had signed those contracts was gone. The woman who had started to fall in love was dead. What rose in their place was something harder. Colder. If Adrien Agreste wanted to play games, she would show him what a real player looked like. But first, she needed to know everything. Every detail of his plan. Every person involved. Every lie he had constructed. She opened her laptop and began to dig. By morning, she had a plan of her own. At breakfast, she smiled at him. Sweet. Innocent. "I was thinking," she said, touching his hand across the table. "Maybe we should renew our vows. Something private, just us, to celebrate the real marriage we're building." Adrien's eyes softened. "I'd like that. Good." She squeezed his hand, her nails digging in just slightly. "Let's make it perfect." He had no idea he was sitting across from an enemy, and she had no idea that the real betrayal was still coming. For 2 weeks, Marinette played the perfect wife. Smiling, affectionate, trusting. Every touch was a blade hidden in silk. She hired a private investigator. She traced Adrien's calls. She followed money trails through shell corporations and offshore accounts. She was building a case, evidence of conspiracy, attempted murder, fraud. She would destroy him the way he had tried to destroy her family. The vow renewal was set for Saturday evening. Just them, a private terrace overlooking the city. Romantic, intimate, the perfect place for a confession and an ending. But on Friday night, everything changed. Marinette was reviewing documents when her investigator called. "Mrs. Agreste, you need to see this. I'm sending files now." Her laptop chimed. Documents appeared. She opened them. And her entire world shattered again. The voice on that recording, the one she thought was Adrien. It wasn't. The audio analysis showed it had been digitally altered, spliced together from different recordings. The investigator's report continued. The car accident. Real, but not orchestrated. The driver who ran the light was a teenager on his phone, arrested at the scene. No connection to Adrien. The phone call Adrien made that night. Traced. He had been calling his security team to arrange protection for her parents. To investigate whether the accident was truly random. Every piece of evidence she thought she had. Fabricated. Someone had framed Adrien. Someone had wanted her to believe the worst. Someone who knew their marriage was becoming real and wanted to destroy it. "Who sent me the original audio file?" she demanded. "Lila Rossi." Marinette's blood ran cold. "Why?" "Dig deeper and you'll see." She wasn't engaged. She was fired by Adrien 2 months ago for embezzlement. She's been systematically trying to ruin him. The marriage to you threatened her last chance at getting close to him again. She needed you to hate him. Marinette stared at the evidence, at the truth she had been too hurt to see. She had spent 2 weeks believing the worst about the man she loved. 2 weeks plotting his destruction. 2 weeks poisoning what they had built. And tomorrow she was supposed to renew vows she thought were lies. Her phone rang. Adrien. "Hey." His voice was warm. "I know you're working late, but I was thinking, tomorrow, after the vows. Maybe we could talk about making this real. All of it, not the contract. Not the arrangement. Just us." Marinette's throat closed. "Adrien, I love you. I know I'm supposed to pretend I don't, but I can't anymore. So tomorrow I'm going to tear up the contract, and I'm going to ask you to marry me again. For real this time. No business, no deals. Just you and me and whatever future we want to build." She was crying now, silent tears streaming down her face. "I'll see you tomorrow," he said softly. "Good night, Marinette." The line went dead. She had spent 2 weeks becoming what she hated most. Cold. Calculating. Exactly like she thought he was. And he had spent 2 weeks falling deeper in love with her. Saturday arrived too fast and too slow. Marinette stood on the terrace in a simple white dress. No performance, no cameras, just truth. Adrien waited by a small arch covered in flowers. He looked nervous, hopeful, young in a way she had never seen. She walked to him slowly. Each step felt like miles. "Before we do this," she said, her voice shaking, "I need to tell you something." His smile faltered. "Okay. I thought you arranged my father's accident. I thought you were playing me, using me." The words tumbled out. "I spent 2 weeks planning to destroy you. To take everything from you the way I believed you had taken everything from me." The color drained from his face. "But it was all lies. Someone manipulated me, made me believe you were the villain. And I believed it because I was so scared that this was too good to be true, that you couldn't possibly really care, that I didn't deserve real love. Marinette." His voice cracked. "I'm broken too," she whispered. "I'm so scared of being hurt that I almost destroyed the best thing that ever happened to me. So before you tear up any contracts or make any promises, you need to know the truth. I'm not innocent. I'm not good. I'm just as damaged as you are." Silence stretched between them. The city sparkled below, oblivious. Then Adrien laughed. Soft, broken. Relief and pain mixed together. "You want to know the truth about me?" He reached into his jacket, pulled out a folder, handed it to her. She opened it. Her hands trembled. Inside were copies of every investigation, every security report, every call he had made, all documenting his desperate attempts to protect her family, to find who had really caused the accident, to keep her safe. "I knew someone was manipulating you," he said quietly. "I knew you started pulling away. I had my team investigate, found out about Lila, found out what she sent you. I could have confronted you, demanded answers. But I was terrified that if I pushed, you'd run. Why didn't you tell me? Because I wanted you to come to me. I wanted you to trust me enough to ask, to believe in us enough to fight for the truth." His eyes met hers. "I wanted you to choose me. Not the contract. Not the deal. Me." They stood there, two broken people who had almost destroyed each other trying to protect themselves from pain. "I choose you," Marinette said. "Not because of any contract. Not because I have to. Because somewhere between the lies and the fear and the walls, you became the person I trust most in this world." Adrien closed the distance between them, cupped her face in his hands. "I don't have a ring. I don't have grand gestures. All I have is the truth. I love you, every scarred, scared, beautiful piece of you. Will you marry me? Again, for real. We're already married. Not the way I want us to be." Marinette smiled through her tears. "Yes, 1,000 times yes." He kissed her, soft and sweet and full of promise. The city lights sparkled around them, witnesses to something neither contracts nor fear could ever contain. When they finally pulled apart, Marinette took the contracts from his pocket. All of them. The marriage agreement, the confidentiality clause, the terms and conditions. Together they tore them into pieces, let them scatter in the wind like snow. "No more walls," Adrien said. "No more fear," Marinette agreed. They walked inside, hand in hand, not to separate bedrooms or careful distance, but to a future they would build together, messy and imperfect and beautifully, devastatingly real. 6 months later, Marinette stood in the same hospital where her father had fought for his life. But this time, she held a different kind of miracle. Her daughter, born 3 weeks early but healthy and perfect. Adrien sat beside her, staring at the baby with wonder in his eyes. "She has your smile," Marinette said. "She has your courage." Her parents entered, her father moving slowly but steady. He took his granddaughter with trembling hands, tears streaming down his face. "What's her name?" Sabine asked. Adrien and Marinette exchanged a look. A whole conversation without words. "Emma," they said together. "Emma Agreste Dupin-Cheng." "A new beginning," her father said, understanding in his eyes. That night, in their shared bedroom, Adrien held Marinette close. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked. "The contract, the arrangement, the messy way we started. Not for a second." He kissed her forehead. "We were two people who didn't believe in love. And somehow we found it in the last place we expected, in each other. I used to think love was supposed to be easy. Maybe the best love isn't easy. Maybe it's two people choosing each other every day, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard." Marinette turned in his arms, looked into those green eyes that had once seemed so cold and now held nothing but warmth. "Then I choose you, today, tomorrow, every day after. And I choose you." They fell asleep together. No contracts, no conditions, no walls. Just two hearts that had been broken and had somehow, impossibly, healed each other. The city sparkled outside their window, full of people making mistakes and finding redemption. Full of stories that hadn't been written yet. Full of love that looked nothing like the fairy tales, but was real in a way that mattered more. And in that penthouse that had once felt like a prison, two people who had almost destroyed each other were building something better. Something true. Something that would last. Not because they had to, but because they chose to. Every single day. The end.